Good morning, students. Today we are going to start our next chapter from history, that is Reconstructing the Past: What, Where, How, and When. As you all know that history deals with the past events. Everything or anything happened in the past comes under the category of history. And Greeks were the first people who wrote about history. Herodotus came to be known as the father of history. He wrote wars between the people of Greece and Persia and provided information about various historical facts. That's why he is known as the father of history. Students, there are various features and importance of history. Let us discuss them one by one. Firstly, features of history. History provides us knowledge based on evidence or proof. There were several stories behind a single event. Historians tried to find out what happened in the past. Historians are those people who brought us information about anything happened in the past. Then the importance of history. History is the storehouse of wisdom of past because history is the only aspect which throw lights on the historical events or anything happened in the past. It informs us about what types of problems people faced in the past and how they solved it. It also tells us about the various freedom movements by various freedom fighters. Like in India, we have freedom movements against the Britishers by Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, Subhash Chandra Bose, and so on. It also provides us message of mutual tolerance, respect, unity, and brotherhood. Reconstructing the past. Long history of man divided into two parts, prehistory and history. In prehistory, there were no written records. It means that there were no official written records related to anything happened in the past. Historians got information about anything happened in the past from different things like tools, coins, ornaments, jewelry, weapons, and so on. And prehistorical period was divided into three categories or three ages. Stone Age, where everything made up of stone were used. Bronze Age, where copper products were mostly used. Then Iron Age, where products made up of iron were used. Then historical period or history period, where there were written records of anything and everything happened in the past. Then archaeology. Archaeology is the science which deals with the studying of things left behind in the past. Anything left behind in the past and its studies came to be known as the archaeology. And archaeologists were those persons who found information about various things through their excavation, means dug up the earth's surface. Like in the second picture, you see that there are so many archaeologists who excavate the earth's surface to get information about the past events. And in first picture, you saw that during their excavation, historians find out an object through which they came to get the information that this object is belong to which historical period. Now students, sources of history divided into two categories, archaeological sources and historical sources. Firstly, we are going to discuss about archaeological sources. First, tools and weapons. There were various tools and weapons founded by archaeologists during excavation through which they came to know about the historical events. Like in pictures, you saw that the stones made up of stone tools were mostly used. Animal bones. They also got information or they also found various animals' bones which belong to a particular historical period. Then shelter. In early time, people used branches of trees, bones of large animals and caves as their houses. Next we have megaliths. These were the large structures made up of stones, usually burial sites where they buried their dead bodies, places of worship where they worship their god. Like in this picture, you saw a large megalith made up of stone. Next, we have coins. Historians or archaeologists also found various coins which belong to various historical periods, and students study of coins known as numismatics. Then pottery, cave paintings and jewelry. Related to pottery, earthen pots, मिट्टी का घड़ा were mostly used in the early period. Metal jewelry were mostly worn by the women, and they used burnt woods, stones and plants for cave paintings or draw paintings on the walls of the caves. Next, we have old buildings and monuments. During excavation, historians or archaeologists also find various old buildings and monuments which belong to the early man period. Like in this figure, this is a figure of Great Bath which archaeologists found in the Mohenjo-daro during excavation. Great Bath is a bathing place where people usually took bath during a historical event. Next we have edicts and proclamations. These were the royal orders or commands by the kings which were carved on the stone walls of buildings and palaces. These were the royal orders which kings carved on the stones walls of buildings and palaces. For example, this is Ashokan pillar which is in Sarnath, Uttar Pradesh. And on second picture you saw that the inscriptions carved on the pillar which throw light on the Ashokan period. Next is the history period where there were the written records of past events. Firstly, manuscripts. These were the handwritten records because earlier times there was no typewriter or computer where they can type, so they wrote themselves by their hands. Then we have pictogram, written records with pictures. Now with the written records they also draw pictures about various events. During early times people usually wrote on stones, dry leaves of trees, skins of goats and sheep. Now written records are divided into 4 categories. First, religious or secular scripts. Earliest records were the 4 Vedas. These were known as the Rig Veda, Samaveda, Yajurveda and Atharva Veda. And all these Vedas were written in Sanskrit and provides information about the historical events. Then there are holy scriptures or mythological books, or you can say that Ramayana, that is Mahabharata, Upanishads, Jatakas, Panchtantras and so on. All these throw lights on the historical events and facts. Then next we have memoirs which were written by the kings and their officials in their kingdoms. Memoirs were written by the kings, or you can say that the books, journals, stories written by the kings and their ministers which live in their kingdom. For example, Harsha Charitra by Bana Bhatta, who was the court poet of King Harshvardhana. In Harsha Charitra, Bana Bhatta wrote about the Harshvardhana and his kingdom. Second is chronicles. These were also the records of an event in a particular period of time. Like there were chronicles Ane Akbari and Akbarnama. These were the 2 important records of Akbar, which was written by the Abul Fazl, who worked in the court or kingdom of Akbar. And these both, Ane Akbari and Akbarnama, depicted the rule of King Akbar, and which also provide us information about the Akbar and his ruling period. Next and last we have travel logs and accounts of foreigners. Various foreigner travels also depicted the history of a particular event by their visit. Foreigners visited so many different historical periods during certain kings' periods in various parts of our country, India. During their visits, they also note down that what happened at that part of the time, and various historical events happened in the past. Through these travel logs or these foreigners' books, we also came to be known about the historical information. Example, Fahin, a Chinese historian, visited India in 5th century. Then Huan Sang, also a Chinese historian, visited India in 11th century. Then Al-Biruni, who visited India in 11th century. All these historians, sorry, all these travelogues or foreigners, they provide information about the historical facts in particular period. So, history divided into two sources: archaeological sources, where there were no written records, only information we got from various things, and second, history period, where there were written records of everything happened in the past. I hope you are able to understand the concepts. Thank you and have a nice